Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Who Am I? I'm glad to welcome you here. If you're my one regular listener, I adore you. I appreciate you. I've been thinking about what I wanted to do for today's episode because, I did have a rhythm. There was a minute there where um, I did a really good summation of what the seminar is about, if you will. If you want to call this thing that I do, this presentation that I do, a seminar, it has a number of parts and they link together in a certain way. And then once you establish the foundational principles, you can go off onto all kinds of tangents about talking about this and that and the other thing. I was on a roll with it, but unfortunately, if you're a regular listener, you know that I have been having some audio difficulties, which I have been working my way through. Hopefully today's offering has a nice clear sound to it. But I decided that since I got interrupted from my nice flow, that I'd just start over. And so what today's going to be about, instead of just riffing and rambling in a unstructured way, sort of like I did yesterday, I think today what my intention, my goal is going to be is to fully describe the course. I did that a couple of days ago, but I don't think anybody heard it because I believe that's one of the ones I had to throw away because I had this buzzing, whining, staticky sound going on in the background and nobody could bear to listen to me for longer than 5 seconds. I suppose I could have sent it to the audio fix-it shop and they could have, removed that, but I don't have such a thing, so I didn't know what to do, so you didn't hear it. And that's all right. It just means I'm going to start over again, and I'm going to describe what this seminar is all about. I'm going to call it a seminar. I have been calling it a thesis, but it's more than that because it's a number of theses with a TH. It's more than that. It's a number of them that dovetail together, that drive to a point, that illuminate understanding about who we are and why we're here, what we're doing on planet Earth, what our lives are about, both individually and collectively, because we have both things, both scales are going on, and both scales are as real as the other. In reality, you are the whole thing moving through time at the same time that you are in charge of your little individual spot on the grid. You have to deal with it. You have to operate your vehicle. Anyway, so let's get started. Excuse me, I know. You might say, haven't you already started? You're over 3 minutes into this. I think you've started. I'm just getting a piece of paper in case I need to doodle something. I don't know why. So the question of the seminar is, who am I? And there's so many ways that you can answer that, there's actually an infinitude of ways to answer that because you can answer it from every angle. And there's all kinds of angles. But we're talking about it in terms of source energy. Who am I in terms of source energy? Because source energy is also the one who is organizing the allness. So the individual that you are and the allness that you are organized with yourself. So this notion of your allness and your smallness, I like that. Your allness and your smallness. I've actually said that before. It's part of the description of your binary self. Different ways of looking at the fact that you are two. And the two that you really are I suppose, fundamentally, when you get right down to it, I usually go to form and formless, and I talk about the quantum field and how everything is made of Plancks. That no matter what you're looking at, no matter what element you're looking at, that what you're actually observing is Plancks spinning. And so I talk about that. I talk about your form and your formless. And this is the same thing, but it's coming to me that the true delineation of the two things is a scale. And that actually fits into the mathematics of Nassim Haramein's work, as he talks about the scaling of this universe, that the mathematics of it suggest is too light of a term, directly points at the fact that a Planck is another scale of the universe. It's like, the first one is Planck, and then universe, and then what would the next scale be? Really, 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 really big numbers. And when you take a Planck and you blow it up to the size of the universe, the densities work out between, at the Planck scale, the density at the subatomic level is 10 to the 93, which is huge. It's a very, 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 very high density, but the density of the universe at the cosmological scale is 10 to the minus 30, which is a very, 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 very not dense. But when you take a Planck and you grow it to the size of the universe, the mathematics of the densities work out. If you take a Planck and grow it to the size of the universe, that density becomes the cosmological density, and the diameters of the protons, and it all works out. I believe the math has been done. There's a lot of people who are saying so. The papers have been published. Now, if you look at the paper, it's very technical. If you are not a high-level physicist or mathematician, it's kind of hard to know as you're looking at it whether it's bunk math or whether it's really good math. But the fact is that his mathematics took him to a 4% closer calculation of the, I believe it's the diameter or of the proton, than heretofore conventional physics was saying that the size of that proton was going to be. I think it's the proton. And when other people did some physical testing of the matter, it turned out that the size of the proton was actually close. It was closer to what Nassim Haramein was saying. And as a matter of fact, what it was is, it's possible that Nassim's calculation is even closer. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I have reason to believe this math. And then when they describe to me, in general terms, in layman terms, the shape of the universe and how it's operating from their point of view, they're saying, hey, we can see this from this point of view, and we've done mathematics that explains it. So I'm going to post in the description, which is probably a poor place to pour it, but I'm not a technician. The technical side of this is not my lane. What I'm doing, and it's probably a blessing that I have few listeners, is every morning I am coming into this space and I'm coming into the same conversation room Yeah, I've outlined the situation. What we're talking about, who am I? We're talking about ourselves in terms of our vibrational nature, our physical nature, most specifically, I suppose, we're talking about our binary nature, our big self combined with our little self, and how that comprises a system, how an operating system, if you will. You've got an internal operating system and there's an overall operating system, an OOS, if you will. Anyway, that's the general discussion, and it's for a number of reasons. We come to this discussion about this for several reasons. We need to understand the greater world around us. It is true. Because we're expected to function as though we know, we're getting this stream of current events news because it's so important that we know everything that's happening up to the minute so that we know how to act. Well, optimally, I suppose it would be okay if you heard things, but I actually don't think that you really need to know the news. What you need to do is be in very close contact with your own broader perspective, inner being, vibrational aspect that is reading the rest of the world and trying to guide you through it. So know that you are indeed operating in a greater field with a greater universe. If you happen to hear current events, that's okay. That's okay. It's very likely and possible that your inner being has decided that it's time for you to listen to certain things and link in with certain aspects of your greater self. Because your greater self is the rest of the world, And your vibrational greater self is in touch with the rest of the world. And so if you're really listening, you will be moving in the direction of what's best for you. And I believe what is best for the whole world, because I have come to believe that we are organizing in a particular way. That the allness is gently and sweetly offering up a way for us to organize with one another. And it's quite loose. It's not like that your inner being is forcing you down a particular track. You actually have way more responsibility than that. If your inner being was trying to get you to take a particular track, it would be a lot easier. You just, track into what your inner being wanted you to do and then just do it. The thing is your inner being's not exactly doing that. It's offering you a range of choices, and all of the choices align along spirit frequencies. So you don't necessarily have exact control over specific details, especially if it involves other people having to do certain things. When you start focusing that way, you and others start getting very uncomfortable. The way it is you pick the frequency. Loving, kind, open-minded, open-hearted, believing that everything is going your way, that you are loved and supported by the rest of the universe, by, that there is a common desire of goodness from all directions, no matter how twisted it is looking from somebody's perspective. Know that it really is twisted. It's twisted as in misalignment has happened. It's time in the show where I pull in, but I'm going to go right back to the fishes. Because I don't like it when I do the show and I just sit on this slide and don't ever go, because it's a real boring slide. This one right here. But it's important. It's important because this one illustrates the two minds. And it's a teeny weeny little one that's you specifically, you in your meat self, clothed in your current biotechnology, relating to the field the way the other bio beings are also. I mean, we're a co-creation. We're all in this together. And when you look at us at the field level, you realize, oh, wow, we are all just plonks dancing, spinning, actually. Everything is spin. There's nothing but spin. There's a good reason how come the one on the right, you can kind of imagine it as a spinning point of... it's a spinning point of... It's an aperture opening onto a point of view. It's a looking at things. And that's you, specific you, looking at things. Now your source self sees everything. So it doesn't have to look at, your blood pumping and where your atoms are located and, what proximity you are to the table in front of you and stuff like that. Your inner being doesn't have to look at any of that stuff. There's so much of that detail she already knows. She's just looking at it the same way that if you're just, your eyes are looking forward, you can see everything. But what are you looking at? It's kind of like she is, but she's got a bigger field. And part of my seminar explains from a layman's words on a technical side why your inner being knows everything. Just so that you can rest, your faith can rest on a foundation of truth. If you're looking at, the questions of who am I and what is reality and how does it come into being and what does that mean to my life and my choices, And then you take it another step and you go, well, what does this mean to my people? If we collectively could come to a matter-of-fact kind of general consensus understanding, actually it doesn't even have to be consensus, not conscious consensus, but every human being who learns better how they actually operate will function more peacefully in the world, because peace is our peace, kindness, eagerness, interest, fun, playful, joyful, eager, all of those things. That's our default spirit setting. I've used the word spirit now twice. I don't mean it to mean some sort of spooky thing. You could interchange the word frequency. Follow the frequency. The frequency is what you're looking for. Because if you follow a frequency of open-hearted, open-minded, eager, interested, loving, kind, easy on yourself, faith in the world, faith in the processes, connected to all things, stance, it does not matter where in physicality you end up, it will feel good and you'll be in a good situation, right? So you follow the spirit to where you're going. I think perhaps for me, a big part of the difference in the way I look at the world now and the way I looked at it 4 years ago, I met a teaching that I had heard sort of echoed in the world, but had not heard from. She's almost the source of this bald-faced, absolute view of creation, of this vibrational universe and who you really are and how this is unfolding. It's not that other people weren't teaching it, but she took it on the road. She has fun with it. She's been playing with it for 35 years. She has a game she plays with her audience. People raise their hand. They want to ask questions. And she, in her Abraham state, she picks ones that light up. They light up because they're really close to alignment, to their own alignment, and they're eager, and you can feel that their desire is very strong, and their aura, their vibrational output about it has something that Esther can see visually. And so she picks them. They come up to the hot seat. They ask their questions. Since they're close to an understanding, she never picks people who are obstinate and belligerent and heckling. She always picks ones that, because she can tell where everyone is at vibrationally. Anyway, when I met this teaching about the law of attraction, it made me realize a couple of elements about the allness situation that I had not accounted for, it kind of threw it into motion as I realized, oh, you have this inner being. Oh, that's what that is. And it is recording every preference you have ever expressed or not expressed, experienced. Every preference you have ever experienced, that's what your inner being is looking at. It is seeing everything and looking at what you want. And so you need to get into alignment with your inner being, because your inner being is looking at what you want. You may not know what you want. You may be kind of stuck in a neutral place where you're like, oh, well, life's not too bad. Reality being what it is, you just got to suck it up and, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you are designed in a very specific way. Oh, I was going to just describe the whole seminar, and now I'm just getting down into the nitty-gritty. Well, what the seminar is we're coming at this who am I from a number of different angles. The biggest being, both from the allness perspective. Who am I as an allness? Who am I as a morphogenetic field? Who am I as the Planck field, the quantum field? And how does that matter? The holographic nature, and we discuss that. I go into a little bit on the mathematical paper that Nassim and a couple of other guys that I never say their names because I'm not very, I don't know how to pronounce them. Olivier, and I can't see very well a lot of times, so it's hard for me to read even on my huge computer. So I'm just going to you just have to read it yourself, though. Those two names, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, you wonderfully smart people. I'm sure if you're co-listed on the paper, I'm sure that you're very, 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 very smart. Sometimes I go into this is the full abstract. I talk about that. I also, these are slides that I have captured from the video that I post along with this. It's in the description. That may not be the best place to put it, but like I said earlier, I am not the technician. All I am doing is working on this presentation. At some point, I have faith that the universe and law of attraction will bring me the exact correct cooperative component to accomplish whatever would be the greatest thing to accomplish here. And I have no idea what that is. I'm going to leave my mind quite open. I'm just having fun trying to pull this damn seminar together because I think it's actually kind of a cool seminar, and it's possible I could sell this seminar someday. So if you are one of my first initial regular listeners, my first one, because I don't think many of my videos have more than one listener. And it may or may not be the same one. So, anyway, I'm having fun. That's all that matters. These, like I said, these I captured from the 37-minute YouTube video that I will post in the description of this video. You'll see there's all kinds of wonderful things. And when I get into deeply talking about, immersed talking within the subject, I start talking about the Planck length and where does it come from? And all the different, there's the Planck mass and the Planck, did they say that here? No. The Planck mass and the Planck time and the Planck length, and where does all of that come from, and how does it all blah, 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 blah. We will discuss this in the days to come. We're going to discuss all of this. This one here, I like this one. This one I pulled from the paper itself. Go find that paper. I saw it posted. I think it was somebody. They directed me to a link because I belong to the International Space Federation, and I go over to the Resonance Science Foundation. I'm a big fan of these people, although I have been working on my own angle on it, but I'm trying to add it in because their mathematics matter. We should be using this mathematics to develop our next century of amazing discoveries and brand new technologies and brand new sources of energy. We could have those brand new sources of energy overnight. The problem will be, I just said that. I feel that's true. I don't know why I said that, but I feel like the timing on the plugging into a different source of energy is actually not long. The problem is that our entire structure of our civilization, our paradigm, is built on a different system. Everything is built on the petrodollar. If energy becomes free, then what happens to money? You know, all of a sudden you're sitting there holding a bunch of $20 bills that nobody wants to take anymore because nobody cares about this. Actually, I don't think it has to be that way. I think we could just keep trading them. You know, what they are is an expression of an impulse or an intention to do some action. You know, I give my local nail salon, you know, two $20 bills, and they have the intention of doing my toes. We could all keep doing that, I suppose, but I don't think it's going to work that way. In any case, I don't think that that's what's standing in our way of plugging into unlimited, clean, free energy. I think our consciousness has to rise. Because I think that truly plugging into the source of all things, we need to understand the source of all things. And so in this seminar, what I do is I do a bit on the mathematics side, the mathematical side, the physics side. I am paraphrasing Nassim Haramein's work, and he does not know me, so I'm just coming at it from my own angle. I'm completely responsible for the things that I'm saying. Nobody else has endorsed me. I'm just trying to bring a layman's general understanding of the wholeness of this universe. It is an integer, and it is made of integral parts. Every part that it makes up the whole is in itself another whole. It's a black hole, by the way. It's a black hole spelled H-O-L-E and W-H-O-L-E. It's all made of these integers. Every proton of every atom in all of the atomic structure of everything in the entire universe is a little vortex of ether, of Plancks spinning. And this picture right here, I was saying why I like it, because what it's illustrating is the mathematics of how the Planck field within every proton is reflecting all the protons in all the rest of the universe. I find the little figure within the little mathematical structure within the figure on the left, the circle on the left, looks very much like the beginning of the tree of life. It's very interesting when you study the universe from this angle, from Nassim's angle and his mathematics and his way of looking at how everything's coming into being, so as matter comes across the event horizon, from this sea, this seething, roiling sea of Plancks that's sort of popping across, and then now it's just a Planck. As matter comes across, it's spinning, because that's what brings it into appearance. It's a little tornado, a little vortex of ether, of Plancks spinning. And when you start studying the universe from this direction, lo and behold, all the sacred geometry comes out. You're like, oh, that's why that. Oh, that's why that. And that leads you right to a connection to ancient wisdom and things that connect to artifacts from way back. So also part of my little seminar involves the question, who am I and where might I have come from? Now, I don't actually have any answers involving a specific where. My little program simply implies that there's the possibility that when observing very closely some of our genetics, it is possible that we have been genetically modified. There is some evidence to suggest that, and if indeed we were genetically modified, then other people could ask the question, well, who could have done that to us? Because it would have been done about 200,000 years ago when anatomically modern humans appeared upon planet Earth. Now, we don't actually have the fossils of the missing link between who we were and who we are. We have, within our genes, you can see our relationship to the other primates and on planet Earth. However, we don't exactly have the specific missing link that jumped us from them to us. Now, this might be it. It might be a piece of it. I bring up some discussion of the nature of our minds. This would be the nature of your physical specific mind, represented here in this picture by the little spinning aperture on the right. Your source mind, like I said, your source mind sees everything, knows everything. It's vibrational in nature, and if you are one of my regular listeners, I'm gonna apologize for something, because I'm probably gonna do this again tomorrow. I need to organize my thoughts a little bit better as I try to describe in full, without really going into great detail, any of the parts. Describe the seminar first, and then go in part by part by part and add all the things that I said I was going to add up, add them together. I haven't done that yet. A lot of what you're listening to in this show, Who Am I? It's early days. Someday this is going to be on the blooper tapes or whatever. This is going to be in the archives showing how this show developed. This is just me knowing that all these things come together and they're important. And when you use this framework and then turn and look at the world, a whole lot of it comes into coherent sense. Things that were previously random and unmanageable become recognizable. You go, oh, that's why that's happening. And therefore, this is what will best fix it. If you're not looking at the world the way it really is, then your ideas aren't working the way it really works. And so we're just having this little discussion about reality from who am I? Because I personally believe, that all of the woes of humanity could be greatly, greatly reduced or even eliminated. Of course, we'd come up with a whole new bunch of things that we need to work on, but at least it wouldn't be from this abysmal, we're dealing with war. We shouldn't be dealing with war anymore. Because if we understood who we really are, we would never... It would be just like the old joke. It's a joke adage, I don't know, the old saying, and the beatings will continue until morale improves. That's spoken by someone who has no idea what morale is, and has no idea that beatings can never improve morale. Well, that's what happens. War is never going to make peace. War only makes war. And the problem is that there's an agitation at work right now. I believe that it's caused by a paradigm of scarcity. This paradigm of scarcity is being caused by a misunderstanding of the inescapable abundance that we all abide in. We abide in a system full of inescapable abundance. Well, it appears that we have escaped it. Well, we haven't really escaped it. What we're experiencing right now is an abundance of lack. But it's still abundance. Man, is it an abundance of lack. But the universe is abundant. And we live in a paradigm of... we live in a system. The overall fundamental system that we're in can handle anything, can become anything that it wants. It just has to, it's flying upon the wings of what it wants. So, actually, this show is going to be okay. I may not have to do it again tomorrow. I may be able to build tomorrow because I'm only 37 minutes in. 3 hours. I looked at the 3. I'm 37 minutes in. And I'm going to take the whole show 1 hour and a half, which is about what I've been doing. It started out as a 2-hour show, but I decided that that's a little bit long. So we're going for 1 hour and a half right now. And I'm only a little more than a half hour in. And we're just going to spend the whole day describing every direction that my seminar is going to cover. Why we talk about it this way, and what we can use this tool then and turn and look at anything and understand what it is we're looking at. Because we're engaging intentionally both our higher perspective and our specific perspective. I don't like to say higher and lower. People like to call the specific mind the ego mind, and they think of it as a pejorative, Because when you think only in your ego mind, when you think only in your specific self, you are taking a small view. And if you don't understand that you are being informed by a broader perspective that you either are or are not paying attention to, if you are stuck in negative emotion, then you are not paying attention to your higher perspective, because that one is always positive, and you are displaying the obvious illustration that you are not in alignment with your inner being because you're negative. Now, it's not that people are never allowed to be negative, because we're designed to do it. We're designed to go there. We're just not designed to stay there. We're supposed to find it uncomfortable, not like it, reach for thoughts that feel better, because the ones that feel better are actually more practically accurate. They're more pragmatically accurate. They may not be more scientifically accurate, but as far as how they are guiding you in your steps and what would benefit you towards what you really like and want as you have declared it to be through all of the eternities that you have lived, because your inner being is an aspect of you that marks every preference, and it marks it at the preference point. Oh, she likes this. She likes this. She likes this. And then there was a meeting point where materiality met that preference. And so your inner being also, it knows all the details about what you want too, and where they all are on the grid, and is trying to lead you in the direction. It's not like there's only one choice. There are thousands of choices. I think Esther says something like, in any given moment, wherever you stand, there's, I don't remember if she said 30 or 50 or might have been more, legitimate directions that you could go from where you are standing that would be satisfying, that would be successful, effective, that would take you in a realistic direction of something that would really make you happy, In any given time, you are faced with all kinds of choices. Any one of them would be magnificent. And so that's your job. As your specific being, that's your job, to make those choices. Your inner being's not making those choices. Your inner being is shining a light on a large field of possibilities that if you took any one of them, you would be blessed and, co-creatively dancing with all the rest of the field and having a good time. So think of your source mind. I've still got this picture up. Sorry. This wide open aperture. It's like shining a light on a big area. That's what it's looking at. And if you go there and resonate with your inner being and go where it's shining light, you have a good and steady path. She can light up that invisible path for you. But you've got to make the choices. You are a binary self. Don't think of your ego mind or your smallness mind. I don't even like the word ego, because we have really, really stomped on that as though somehow we have to get over it. Don't get over it. What you just need to understand is that you also, besides your specific self, you have broader perspective, your greater mind, connected to all the field around you and all of the well-being and best intentions for all the other biofield beings as well. And so the point that you're really looking for in your life is not just what benefits me, although a selfish perspective is definitely called for. You need to stand up for yourself. You need to honor your preferences, from their pure standpoint. I'll tell you what you prefer, what you want. What we all want is freedom and joy, fun, relationship, abundance, food, comfort, choices, life, clean water, clean air. Need I go on? That's from a pure standpoint. I want us all to do better, because I know that we all do better when we all do better. And if that's everybody's intention, just kind of in a clean way, don't worry too much. As a matter of fact, don't worry at all about anything. Don't worry. Be happy. But don't worry too much about exactly, how it's going to play out in the field. Resonate the frequency, and the field will morph into something that matches that blessed frequency. Don't stare at the materiality thinking that you have to push it around and get it shaped. And then as soon as it's shaped into something that okay, I like that. Now I can feel good. It doesn't work that way. Find the frequency and emanate that frequency, and a couple of things are going to happen. One of the first things that happen is you get access to better ideas, because the higher frequencies that you're emanating now, just because you want to. I want to feel good. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to have fun. I want to feel purpose. I want to feel us as humanity moving in a direction that is less dangerous rather than more dangerous. I don't mean to harp on our problems, but collectively we have some problems. Now, individually, I have projects, things I'm concerned about sometimes, because they come back to me as, my children still need a little help. Which I don't blame them for. It's a very complex world. And I have also determined that nothing less than success for all of us is my intention. So as far as if I can still help them, I will. And if it becomes to be too much physical help, then I insist that they enroll in my spirit classes so that they can start understanding how to attract it from the rest of the field. The rest of the field is a potential cooperative component. Think of it that way. We are all cooperative components to one another's endeavors. And if you come up with ideas that benefit more individuals of all kinds, the human and non-human, it doesn't matter. The winningest formula is the one that's going to interest the most number of beings, and you're going to have the most number of cooperative components to all of your schemes and endeavors. When you have ideas that are only for yourself, then you don't get so many cooperative components. If the only idea you can come up with to come up with some money to feed yourself is to knock over the local 7-Eleven, you aren't going to have as many cooperative components as if your grand dream is some sort of marvelous, building project or where you might have thousands. Have you ever seen how many people are listed on the back of a really big movie? Thousands of people come together to create those things. Cooperative components. So, anyway, you got to get these two beings into alignment with one another. You've got to get your small self interested in the kinds of things your big self is interested in. Your big self is connected to the whole field and knows how reality is coming into being. It is reality coming into being and has been doing so for all of eternity. And it knows where everything is, and what it's looking at is what you want. It's a magical universe we are in. A magical universe that is so weighted in our favor that it's almost obscene that we don't understand how it works. And we are oftentimes doing the bass-ackward thing, the absolute opposite thing to what we really want to do. War is not the answer. Understanding is the answer. Understanding what we're looking at is the answer. And in the seminar, in the days to come, we're going to have a whole chapter about the concept of authoritarian psychosis and how it fits into this paradigm, this description of reality that we're going to be talking about, and who am I? And the reason that it's valid to do this is because we are asking who am I from the I am a human being point of view. And who's a human being? Well, there is a thing that human beings cyclically tend to do in their geopolitical field. And it has to do with this phenomenon that I believe Carl Jung is the one who dubbed it authoritarian psychosis. I very much like that term. It relates to another concept, which is a particular psychic illness carried by the individual. Paul Levy calls it Wetiko. We're going to have a whole show about aberrant psychology and the meaning of it and how it relates back to the fact that you're a binary self and what happens to you when you are not in alignment with what your greater perspective knows to be about reality. When you get crosswise with your own inner being, what happens and what that looks like and what it looks like from the outside. We're going to discuss it about what it feels like, because we all as human beings have all this equipment that has the tendency to line up or not line up, and what does it look like when you are or when you aren't, and what your negative and positive emotions are, all of that stuff. We're going to talk a lot about that in the days to come. And at some point, I'm going to boil it down very, very clearly so that, maybe I have an hour show, a presentation where I talk about what the whole thing's going to be about. Then everybody breaks. They go get a drink of water and pee. Maybe we got cookies out in the foyer. And then they come back and we do it by section by section by section by section as you come to understand how you are relating to this field and what it's doing, how your emotions are your indication of how well you are blending or not blending with your source being, because your source being is very positive. And when you get back to your predominantly positive self, you have a sense of, oh, I remember this person. Oh, this is who I am. Yes. Now, you may not remember it from this life, depending on where you have been born on this planet and whether you have ever experienced love or peace or safety. You may be in a hyper heightened state of negative emotion at all times because you've... but it all still applies. What is your... who are we? Who are we? Who am I? Remember, that's the name of the seminar. Who am I? Who am I in my allness? Who am I in my smallness? And they both of them come together to create a blessed binary system that is viewing the universe, the world, and your life, co-viewing it with you. When I met the teachings of Abraham, it was just as COVID was shutting the world down. I am an older person. My husband still worked. He has just recently retired. He worked, but COVID had a big effect on our lives because his job came home. And so all of a sudden he wasn't going to work all the time. He's working from home. We were not stressed in any way. We were not financially in a position where we had to go out and battle the front lines and risk getting sick and all that kind of stuff. COVID was not a hard time for us. COVID was a blessed time for us, and I really, really appreciated it because I had thought to myself for decades, I have thought humanity was on a course of madness, and I couldn't see how it was possible for us to change our behavior. We never change our behavior. We always do what we always do. And when I saw all of a sudden we did something different, just for a minute, we all stayed home and the streets went empty. And it gave me such a sense of reality. It gave me such a sense of, oh, look at this. This is really interesting. And I took advantage of the time and I stayed home. I meditated so much. I meditated. I created sanctuary here in my almost, ready-made sanctuary here along the river in the Bosque. Really nice. So I didn't have a suffering COVID time, I felt it to be quite blessed, and I took advantage of the opportunity to put things together, to pull things together. And at the same time, I met the teachings of Abraham, who was telling me, you're vibrational beings in a vibrational universe, and your inner being is keeping track of all that you prefer. She calls it your vortex of creation, and within your vortex is every marked preference you've ever had through all eternity. Your desires are known. You don't have to keep step wanting to mark your desire. Our desire is well known. You need to follow your inner being's guidance to manifest your desires. Follow the will of the wisp, follow the lead, follow the spirit. You're following a spirit guide that is saying, well, what you want is all these feelings. You want a feeling of freedom and abundance and clarity and joy and fun and possibility and expansion. You love that feeling. Now, what in physicality is going to get you that feeling? And that's the way we've been approaching it, when actually the answer is go find the feeling as best you can, and the universe will start morphing around you to match that feeling. Because the universe is actually vibrational. And so you're finding that vibration first. And as you hold that vibration, you are causing the field to begin to morph into that shape. Human beings are an absolute amazing biotechnology. I believe that our emotions have been created for that reason. It's one of the reasons how come I believe that we are genetically modified, because of, lo and behold, how our emotions speak to the quantum field is pretty amazing. Now, 76% of the neocortex volume comes from human chromosome number 2. And if you know me, you know these slides I'm going to show you, which is the origin of human chromosome number 2, an ancient telomere to telomere fusion. This is a peer-reviewed genetic article in a journal of science, a scientific journal where you publish the workings from all the disciplines of science. It's not just the genetic scientific journal. It's all of the disciplines published in journals like this. This is the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, a big, prestigious scientific journal. This was published back in 1991, and as far as I know, the publishers of this work didn't have an agenda of their own, although what they were noticing was it looks like the configuration of this chromosome, it's extra big, there's telomere in the center, the sequencing on both sides of the telomeres appear to be, it looks like it was a fusion of two separate chromosomes, fused telomere to telomere with, if you look at the sequences flanking both sides of the telomeres, this is what they conclude. It's the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which two ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. I believe that this is good evidence that we were genetically modified. I don't know enough about genetics or anything, or what might be a contrary, this can't be true because something else. I don't know. I am not a geneticist. It doesn't necessarily prove it, but I think it suggests it. And if you are in any of these fields and think that this is an interesting, way to go, you could go this way and answer this question, peer into it a little more fully. I bring it up because I just find it interesting. I think that I think we are designed. I think it's another reason how come so many cultural traditions, ancient cultural traditions, talk about a creation story, and it's not just a metaphor for incremental evolutionary processes. That they're trying to say that actually something happened a little quicker than that kind of bumped us along. And the reason that someone would do this to us is because with this stronger ability to emote, What you can do when you understand the system that you're actually looking at, oh, I am both a specific and a general. And I need to pay attention to my general. And my general is telling me that all is well. As a matter of fact, from the general position, you are the quantum field. You are, let's go back to the aperture picture. You are source energy. You are indestructible. You are a morphogenetic field that is eternally morphing. That is the one constant in this universe that never changes. Well, that always changes. All of the physicality of it, the shape of the atoms and their configuration, what their direction, their temperature, their speed, all of those things change all the time. Stars go nova, and then they, things implode and they explode, and they, things are always changing. But the one thing that doesn't change is this Planck field, that the whole thing, the source of all things. And that's who you really are. And if you can start identifying, consciously identifying with that aspect of yourself and understand that you really are a binary system, you have broader perspective. So what is it telling you? First of all, 100% of the time, 100% of the time, your source energy side has faith in it doesn't have to have faith in the processes. It knows what's happening, right? So your source side is anchored so securely in the actual materiality of your physical space. It may be a spirit, a Holy Spirit. It's the guidance of the Holy Spirit that religions talk about. But it is absolutely grounded in the physicality of what's going on around you. It knows what's going on around you. And within the field of what's going on around you, it knows what you want. Because what it's doing is knowing everything and looking at desire. And it's not just looking at your desire. It's looking at all desire. It's looking at all desire, and it is organizing all of us by desire. And there is a place, I have come to believe this fairly recently, from a practical standpoint, I'm actually going to stand here and put my money on this position. I believe that there is a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win position where there's not winners and losers. If you see it that way, if you see it as a win-lose game, you can create lots of losers. But that's not what the setup actually is. And when we come to know who we really are and how this really works, we will come to a place where we are all winners. All winners in this, including, I want to bring in all of the non-human beings as winners too. Right now, they're kind of heavy losers in this game of sixth mass extinction that humanity is playing upon planet Gaia. And we need to get away from that. We do have problems. Collectively, we have problems. Now, individually, you may be doing great. You may be happy all the time, and you may be following your dream and just following the guidance of your inner being to your fun and your joy and all that. And if you are, God bless you. God bless you. But even if you are individually happy, you got to understand we are an allness. We are a single morphogenetic field upon this planet, and you are not separate from your neighbor. And we are all a human family. And just like within an individual human family, when one of them has tremendous psychological difficulty and goes to the psychologist or the psychiatrist for help, the psychiatrist knows darn well that it is not an isolated incident, that there are patterns within the structure of the family that are supporting this aberrant behavior. That's what's happening around the planet also. So the people who are murderous and acting up we have some co-responsibility with this. I believe that it has to do with us not knowing who we are. And as soon as we start understanding better who we are, then we start treating our fellow human beings when they act up better, more effectively. We need to soothe one another into our alignment, not beat one another into higher morale. But we don't know that unless we really understand who we are. And so that's why this seminar. Who am I? Let's see, what other parts of the seminar will I be covering? Actually, there will probably be days when I cover this, the emotional guidance scale, and how this, Abraham talks about this angle on it almost exclusively. She talks about it from the individual angle, from understanding the meaning of your positive and negative emotions. When I studied this for the year of COVID, it really, a light bulb went off as I went, oh, that's what's happening to me and others. That explains it. There are no bad people. There are grievously misaligned people, not understanding the system that they are and are embedded in, completely misunderstanding it and running amok and acting quite destructively and quite wickedly. I think of this as, and we will talk about this also in the seminar in the days to come. You're going to get a version of this seminar over the air for free right now. But someday this is going to be a seminar that I can pull together and I can charge admission. People will come and listen to this. But there are no bad people. There is just an expression of misalignment, of misunderstanding who we are and how it works. How it functions. What do I mean by it? What do I mean by how it works? Well, you're standing in a position, some position, I don't know where you are. We're all over the place. Everyone is standing in a different position on the grid. We're looking at the materiality around us. We're looking at the quantum field around us. And you are where you are, and then you have desires about what you want to have, where you want to be, what you want to do. At the heart of those desires are impulses to move, to move forward. And the whole thing is being informed by your feelings, and those are coming because of your thoughts. Your thoughts and your feelings are a relationship system to one another, and I could spend a whole day talking about that. Abraham has talked for 35 years about this binary system and the meaning of your emotional guidance scale. That it actually, your emotions are an expression of how well your two minds are melding with one another. Are those two minds resonating with one another, or is one thinking thoughts that are wildly different than what your source mind is thinking? Because you have no control over your source mind. Your source mind is deeply embedded in all of reality as it is, and it changes as the field morphs. But source is what source is. It's all things, and you can't really change that. You don't have control of that one. It will be joyful. It will be secure. It will evolve forward. It will know that all is well, whether you do or not. I mean, whether you do or not, that's up to you. And if your two minds are blending well, then you feel good and you're off to the races. You got projects in mind, you got people that you're working with, you're excited about life, you're feeling empowered, all is well with you. Maybe I'm not talking to you because you don't have problems and you're off doing your own thing, and you don't need to be advised because you're doing just fine. but maybe it isn't blending well and you're not feeling good and you don't understand why. Why don't things work out for you? It's because you're taking bass-ackward impulses now. If you're taking them from a negative position, there's a ping in there that's putting you off the grid from where your inner being is actually trying to guide you. We're going to talk all day about this at some point. Let's see, your emotional guidance system. And we're going to talk about your 4 general states of being and how you move. Say you're in a specific negative. Think of specificness as being the accelerator of your light being. You are a light being. You are in the field, somewhere on the grid, and your light self wants to move forward from where you are to where you want to be, from not so happy into joy and fun and excitement and co-creation. And not just that, you want to take care of yourself. You want to have a strong abundance factor, the strong ability to, when you have a desire, the cooperative components to that desire are at hand in whatever form the universe gives them to you. Whether, somebody shows up and says, hey, I wasn't using this, could you use it? And you're like, oh my God, I needed that. I didn't have the money to buy it, and here it is. Well, that's exactly what I needed for this project. Because remember, the universe is moving on desire. Desire is what is moving it forward. I know that when you get to the planet level and the star level and the galaxy level, it might be harder to believe that. And I'm not quite sure exactly how that does, but from a biological standpoint, I can see how this works. It's how, over time, an ecosystem ends up developing so that every creature, and in a really strong development of ecostructure, you have many, an abundant richness of creatures and plants and flora and fauna and all that co-creating with one another. And every single one of them has the food and supplies that they need and want to raise their families and do their thing. Because we're all we transmit this desire, and then the universe kind of produces it. We can all have all that we desire. And being a human being, driving a human vehicle, apparently is a very, very, very special thing to do because of our powerful ability to emote. If we only understood how the system worked and would line up with one another, we would be this tremendous lattice being where everything that anybody knows, all of us know, and we're all working on, actually this could be a whole nother day of just spinning the dreams of how amazing could mankind's future be if and when, because it's not an if, it will be a when. The question is, how many of us will still be alive, and have we bombed the rest of our technology out of our consciousness, so we have to start again? But I believe that, the truth is the truth about the way the universe functions, and we're going to get it. We're going to get it. So back to this 4 general states of being, understand that the specific, think of that as putting on the gas. Going general is putting on the brakes. So if you're in a specific negative, the way to get out of it, all spirits have momentums. So you take a thought and it has a certain whatever to it. It's got a momentum. The universe is going to hand you another thought on the same frequency, And it isn't very long before a momentum has ensued. Now it's harder to break off of that thought and onto something else. It's harder to do that once a momentum has ensued. If it's a negative one, you kind of need to let it sort of play its way out. And since there isn't an actual source of negative momentum, if you let it play out and then start again with a positive, that's the answer to how to conquer your negative emotion. But if you're within one, the answer is, if you're in a specific, go general. That's putting on the brakes. Go general. You're deeply involved in something that is just making you crazy, and the more you work, the crazier you get. Pull away from it and go, wow, this sucks. This sucks. That's a general. And then that reduces the gas, the acceleration that you were doing on your specific negative. You go general, then you might have a chance of picking up a general positive. And if you get solid in your general positive, now look around for something specific to look at and think about positive that makes you feel good, because feeling good is a good thing and feeling bad is a bad thing. Funny how human beings are not born knowing that. They think feeling bad, doing it even though it feels bad, is a virtuous thing, when actually all it does is perpetuate the misalignment of all of humanity. We all need to find our way to our positive. The whole structure is meant to organize along a win-win-win-win-win-win line. And the fact that we have a whole lot of people losing right now is an expression of our general misalignment. There shouldn't be anyone losing in an optimal system. We can be selfish, but selfish from a position of knowing that you are both a smallness and an allness. And so you need to be selfish for the whole group as well as selfish for you individually. And that's where I think a lot of human beings go off. They imagine that there are good people and that they're innately good people and bad people. There is not innately good people and bad people. There are innately some people who are more difficult to come into alignment. For some reason, their equipment is just kind of skewed to naturally default to misalignment. And it might take a little bit of extra work to help them understand their alignment and find it. But we all want to find that alignment because it will it will link us back in to alignment with the rest of the group, with the rest of the ecosphere, the morphogenetic field of the ecosystems of humanity and the planet Gaia. So, okay, what else do we need to cover? We will mention, and we might even talk more about it. I don't know. I like this because I can see how this whole philosophy, how it relates to what it is I'm trying to say. I think that all of our suffering is coming from not knowing who we are. Now, they say identifying with an imaginary self. Well, I think that's just like calling the ego a pejorative. The ego is not a pejorative. It's only a pejorative when you only see the smaller perspective. You've got to understand you're a binary system. And you've got to learn how to take the wisdom from your broader perspective. Quit ignoring the you that knows. Follow the spirit to where you want to be. That's the whole idea. Now, I'll bring up the Kafka and the doll story. I'm not going to tell it today. I do have the quote, the punchline at the end. Everything you love will probably be lost, but in the end, love will return in another way. And that's actually the name of the game. That's the name of the universe. That's how it all works. And the field of manifesting physicality around you is sort of, it's not illusory, but it has a tendency to keep you off of looking at what is real, because what's real is the vibration. It is all vibrational. You are vibrational. Another thing we'll mention, we will talk more about this also. I'm going to be winding up here in just a few minutes. We will mention cymatics. Cymatics being my way of, I pull it into the discussion because it helps us imagine the reality of this vibrational universe that we live in. Upper right, lower left, what you're looking at there is how cymatics was developed. Cymatics is it's the study of the relationship between vibration and form. Hans Jenny created it by, those are metal plates with a granular medium, pump a frequency through the metal plate, and the pattern in the granular medium forms. Change it, and it changes to a different pattern. Up the frequency, and the pattern starts getting more and more complex. Very, very, very high frequency, very, very high complexity. As these frequencies change from one to another, the pattern changes. When you're in between patterns, it feels like chaos. Some parts of the form are falling away. Other parts of the form are rising in the field. Depending on which one you're grasping on, you're feeling either comfortable or nervous. If you're grasping and clinging to forms that are dissolving away because that vibration is going away, because things are changing, you're feeling very nervous. The analogy is, you've made your fortune making buggy whips. And now everyone's driving cars, or they're starting to drive cars. There's a few buggy whips. People are still asking for some, but it's passing, and you can feel it. Anyway, I always bring that up because it helps you understand that we are indeed in a vibrational universe. So that's the show. That's the seminar. I don't know exactly how I will break it down into... Oh, no, it isn't. No, it isn't, because I actually haven't even mentioned the most important... have I mentioned it? The most important aspect of all of this is I believe that our better understanding of who we are and how this system works is going to allow us to plug our technologies directly into source energy. Free, clean energy at the POD, point of desire. And that's going to change everything. It's going to allow individuals to go back to being individual. And then collectively, we will still all be loosely connected amongst one another across planet Earth. But there's not going to be this very hardcore, centralized power structure. I believe it's coming from our centralized power structure. Well, our centralized energy structure. Energy, power, kind of the same thing. Sort of a play on words there. We're going to talk about that. That will be another big part of the seminar as we talk about who we are geopolitically with all of our systems and where we've come from through time. I'll talk about myself somewhat specifically. At some point, you're going to wonder who the hell I am. Well, why I think I know all these things. I actually believe that human beings are capable of understanding way more than we are understanding. And the simple secret is addition consciousness. Add it up. Add it up from wherever you are. You don't have to add up anything that you don't know. Just anything that has come into your field, add it up. And you will be iterating the allness from your position. It's still going to be very diverse, We'll talk about that too. I have a pet concept I call divine autonomy that I think really has a lot of power. This concept has a lot of power because you describe how this divine autonomy works. So the nature of the universe is a single spin. It all boils down to a primordial spin. Everything is coming out of a primordial spin, but within this primordial spin is an infinitude of spins. So there's all these divine individuations within the divine allness. And that's you. That's you. That's back to this, my silly aperture picture. This is the divine allness on the left and your individuation, your divine individuation on the right. And if you work this, if you get into the center of your center and line your two selves up center to center, you link up with all of the universe, and the win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win position, comes into view. There's all kinds of practical application to understanding how this works. And there's all kinds of destruction factor that happens when we live our lives not knowing how this works. Who am I? It's the big question of the day. The big question of the day. And I believe that our answering of this question is going to lead us out of the wilderness. Out of the wilderness that we are experiencing right now as humanity. There is a great deal of global poverty, global lack that doesn't need to be. We do not need to live in a paradigm of lack. There is, we're all so protective and we're all so threatened by everything, and it's that very position is causing the problem. We're going to unpack all of this. When you man your own divine autonomy, you learn how to get into the center of your center of your center. You can learn how to make yourself safe while still putting your conscious mind on all the things you want to put your conscious mind on, you're not safe because you're putting your conscious mind upon all the threats that could harm you and your baby and everything else, and because you know all the details of all the threats, and now I know where all the perverts are, and so now that's how I keep myself safe. No. Get your divine autonomy working. Get your bubble of safety activated, your force field of unconscious alignment and safety that allows you to glide around the universe doing what you want to do. And if what your intentions are for a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win position, intending well wishes for all of those around you, well, we're going to talk about that. I could spend a whole day talking about divine autonomy and what it is and how it works, but I really want to build a foundation of this whole picture of the allness that we are so privileged to be within. Now, we do share a common allness with one another. It's true. The allness that I know, in a way, is the same allness that you know. However, there is an enormous difference. I am the allness from here, from my position on the grid, from my position within my own divine autonomy, and you are the allness from within the position of your divine autonomy. And it makes a huge difference. It's like I've put my Lego set completely different. I couldn't possibly put it together the same as you. I'm iterating from source energy from this position, and you're iterating from that position. Anyway, all of these things, good things,